All right. So, what are you training for?
Good
I feel
question.
like this is one of those questions that we as runners get a lot.
Yeah, it follows quickly after how long is your 5K marathon?
No, but like even for other fellow runners, right? Like, especially if you meet a new runner, it's like, oh, what are you training for? Or are you training for something?
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
are you training for something right now? So, I think that this is a question that I've heard a lot as a runner. It's a question that I've asked other people for sure because it's an easy question to ask, right? Like if you know somebody else is a runner, it's like, oh, are you training for something right now? It's something that's like an icebreaker almost.
Yeah, it's a definite icebreaker. Kind of lets you feel like what kind of a runner they are.
Oh, that's what kind of a runner they are. That's like a whole nother rabbit hole
But
to go down.
it's kind of what the outline you got laid out here goes into is what are you training for? Kind of helps identify not everything about you as a runner, but certainly the type of runner that you are in this current moment.
We could get into that at some point on the
Right.
podcast.
But today we're talking about what are you training for?
Yeah.
And the answer does not have to be 5K, half marathon, ultra marathon. Like it doesn't have to be a thing. There are other things you can be training for, which is really what we're diving into.
Yeah, and I think that it falls basically into three main categories. Like that when I was kind of thinking about this of the reasons that we train and the reasons that people get into running or kind of our motivations to continue and how those reasons evolve as we get into running, as we continue down our running journey and our running path. So, the first reason I think that brings a lot of people into running and to answer the question, what are you training for? There are a lot of people that train to lose weight or to get in shape or to get fit,
Yeah.
right? I know that this is what brought me into running before I met you. The only reason I ran was because I didn't like my body and I wanted to lose weight. I was not happy with the way that I looked, with the way that I felt, and I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to change my body. So I started running because running seemed like the easiest pathway for that. I didn't have to figure out, an exercise video to watch. I didn't have to figure out what kind of weights to lift in the gym. You just put on some shoes and you headed out the door, right?
Yeah. I mean, I got into running so that I didn't have to put on football pads and get hit by people who were much larger than I did.
That's a different reason. But I think that this is one of the common things that brings a lot of people to running, especially later on in life. It's this idea of running because you don't like your body. It's because you're discontent or because you're even disgusted with how you look or how you feel, or maybe you just want to feel different.
Yeah, I mean, but it all comes from this something's currently wrong with me, and running is going to fix
Mhm.
that physical issue that I'm having. And part of that's true. Like there could be some weight loss involved. There could be some improvement in, different like what blood levels and stuff like that. Like running is a healthy thing to go do, but it's hard to continue to run day upon day upon day if you're simply running to try to be healthier.
Yeah, I think that this is kind of where I want to go with this idea because I think that this can be an okay place to start, right? This is the initial motivation for a lot of people because oftentimes when we aren't happy, it spurs us to change something, right? Like, and when we're not happy about something, it can spur that desire to change something. But I think we get into trouble when we realize that this is not a sustainable or long term reason or long term motivation for most people. Like, just trying to run to lose weight or to stay fit or to stay in shape is not going to, for most people, like lead to that long term result
But
and that long term commitment.
it can certainly kick things off.
Yes, yes.
There are some coaches that I follow that they suggest that motivation follows movement. People are like, oh, I got to get myself motivated so that I can get out the door and start running. Like, try just getting out the door and running and see if motivation will follow it.
Mhm.
And sure, like this can be that little thing that kickstarts you of, all right, I want to lose some weight. I want to get in, I want to feel healthier. I want to get in shape. And it'll start you. And then as you start this routine, hopefully there are some different ways of motivation that kind of are going to be a little bit more long lasting.
Right. And we're going to get into a couple of those in this episode because we really think that even if this is the way that you got into running in the first place, if you came to running because you wanted to get healthier, you wanted to get in shape, you're probably not going to stay here. It's probably going to evolve unless it's like, I just did it as simply a means to an end. I lost the weight and now I'm done with running. Chances are, if you don't move on to something else, you're probably going to gain that weight back. But that's a whole different topic. But most of the time, if you got into it initially, if you guys are like me, For this reason, it tends to then evolve into something else. And one of the other things that I wanted to point out about this is that running is not actually the best way to lose weight. I think that a lot of people think that
Bold move.
yeah, I will make that statement
I know
over and over
you're
again.
doing it, but it shocks people when you
Yeah.
say it. You're completely correct. But
It's not the
sometimes
first time I've said it, and it's not going to be the last.
it catches people off guard to get like the running coach, the running podcast to be like, yeah, if you're looking to lose weight, maybe not the running podcast.
Yeah. I think that it will work in the beginning for a lot of people,
Sure.
and this is again where a lot of times when people first get into running, they see that initial progress, whether it's in their speed, in their distance, or in their weight, if that's what they're trying to change here. But that weight loss will plateau at some point if all you're doing is running. Okay. In some people, it's unfortunate, but it happens. Some people actually end up gaining weight when they start running because they're hungrier and they eat more, or they're running and restricting their food, they're dieting at the same time. And those combinations lead to too great of a calorie loss. And that can lead to binge eating and other dysfunctional eating patterns. So there's like a whole host of other things that can happen if weight loss is the sole reason for your running. But I'm guessing that if you're listening to a running podcast, especially called Real Life Runners, it's probably not the sole reason for you anymore, even if that might be how you started.
Yeah, I mean, there could still be shadows of it that pop up every once in a
100%.
while. Like, yeah, that weekend was a tough one. 4 kids' birthday parties was an awful lot of cupcakes. Maybe I should go for a run. Sometimes that thought crosses your mind, but it's not your day in, day out motivation.
Right. And so, what we want you guys to start to adopt, if you haven't yet, instead of training because you don't like your body, we want you to train because you love your body. Like it's a complete 180 shift, but it's one of those shifts that is so worthwhile. So instead of saying, I don't like my body, I need to go for a run or I need to train in order to change my body, can you start to move towards maybe that 180 flip is too much of a jump for you right now, but what we would offer is this idea of I'm training because I love myself and I'm training because I love my body and I want to take care of it, and running and working out is a way for me to take care of the one body that I have in this life.
I think that's good partial term. Rather than I'm not training because I hate my body. I'm training because I want to take care of my body. That's like the partial turn. And then you can flip it all the way around of I'm training and running to celebrate my body,
Mhm.
to show off the power and strength that I have within me. I think that's the full turn. But
Yeah.
just to take care of yourself
Mhm.
is strongly motivational. It's a different way of looking at it. It's still kind of training for your health purposes, but it's training to care for your body rather than because your body's doing something wrong. It's helping your body live a more full existence.
Right. And I think that that idea is really going to connect to a couple of the points that we're going to make as this episode goes on. But before we jump into that, I like to think about this idea of, training to lose weight or training just to get fit or lose 20 pounds or whatever it is as cleaning the house. We're going to go with a cleaning the house metaphor
It's a
in
brilliant
this
metaphor.
in this episode. So, if you guys are like me, you like a clean house, right? But there's different reasons that we like a clean house, right? And there's different kind of ways that we can go about this, right? So, sometimes when I look around my house, if it's messy, I feel disgusted, right? And it spurs a big cleaning job. Like so the girls know when this is coming. Like mom's like, oh, okay, we gotta clean. Like I look around and there's just stuff everywhere and the laundry baskets are all full. And it's like, okay, guys, we need to do some cleaning around here, right? And things like spring cleaning or Kevin hates it because there are sometimes that like I'll walk into the garage and he'll come like if I'm gone for a while,
Uh-huh.
he'll come out looking for me, like wondering where I am. And if he finds me just standing in the middle of the garage, he's like, "Uh-oh, what's gonna happen now?"
Yeah, because you're just still standing in the middle of the garage, just sort of looking around, not moving anything, just looking in all directions, the 360 pan of the garage. You're
Yep.
like, I think we should move everything in here.
Mhm.
and throw half of it out. And it's the explosion of cleaning. It's looking around and being like, this is not okay.
Right.
And we need a massive overhaul now. And then everybody has to pitch in. We're all cleaning everything.
Yep.
People are mopping and vacuuming. We're throwing stuff out. Like the big garbage bags come in
Mhm.
and we're cleaning
We're
stuff.
cleaning
and just-
closets
Oh
out.
yeah, stuff is just going into the big. Like, this is the explosive cleaning,
Yeah.
which
But-
does create a clean house.
It does. It creates a clean house. It creates a more organized house in the short term.
Yeah,
Right.
right then.
But the
it
other
creates a
thing,
clean
the other
house.
thing that I want to point out about this is that usually, right, like before in the time leading up to those like explosive clean episodes that I have, it's usually things that are starting to get on my nerves, right? Like I'm starting to like every day when I come home, I'm noticing more clutter in the garage, or I'm noticing more clutter around the house, but specifically the garage cleanouts, right? Like the kids just kind of leave their bikes or their, other toys around the garage and it doesn't get put away. And I'm like, that shouldn't be there. That should be better organized. And it's like something I try to keep ignoring day after day after day. And when you ignore something, it builds, right? It's just like weight or being in shape or getting fit, right? It's like, oh yeah, I know I should do something. I know I should start working out. I should start eating healthy. I should do all of these things. And then all of a sudden,
should piles up.
Yep. Then your should pile becomes too stinky and large that you have to just take care of it, right? You just have to like go in, change things up. I'm going to start running. I'm going to start cleaning the house, right? And it works. It produces results in the short term. But one major clean out job does not keep the house clean. There is a different motivation that is needed to keep the house clean or to continue on your training. Because if you start running to lose weight or to get in shape or to get fit, A, what does it even mean? Like, what is the specific goal that you're trying to achieve? But B, you're probably going to lose steam on that reason after a certain period of time. And who you are in that period of time is different for everyone. But at some point, that motivation is going to start to fade away.
It's funny that the garage clean out coincides with January, the way that a lot of people are like, I'm going to get into running with my New Year's resolution. Ours builds up for slightly different reasons. The kids are home for Christmas break. All the Christmas boxes are down from the attic and sitting in the garage.
Yep.
They're home from breaks. So they're out on their bikes and then they come back and just dump them in the garage because they can't as easily get them back to where they're supposed to be in the garage because there's boxes and stuff down.
So you should just put the boxes up in the attic and then you wouldn't have to do these massive garage cleanouts.
You don't like anything sitting on counters,
I don't
and
like that.
Christmas decorations by definition is stuff sitting on all of our shelves and counters.
Yeah, I just don't like clutter.
Right. And so and
Christmas decorations are clutter.
are clutter.
Yeah.
And so eventually Christmas break fills up and then we get new stuff at Christmas. There's large cardboard boxes places. There's just a buildup of stuff.
Well, and then because there's new stuff, then we have to get rid of old stuff.
And the
so
old
then
stuff
there's
tends to go into a
donation.
pile in the garage to get donated.
Right. So then everything's just piling up in the garage for donation and in bags. And then it's just like,
And
okay.
somewhere around the second or third week of January, I just walk out to the garage and Angie's standing there with this just look on her face that says, we're going to spend 6 hours cleaning the garage. And I think to myself, yes, this is going to be amazing.
It's garage day.
Oh, thank God it's here again this year.
It's so true.
But it doesn't create a clean garage forever.
No.
If you don't change anything underlying, that exact same pattern is going to happen 12 months later, and we're going to
Exactly.
do it again the next January.
Exactly.
Which would happen continuously on this running loop of I train, I get in shape, and then I completely let it slack, and weight comes back on, or I'm back out of shape. And then when I notice it and I get upset about it, then I do it again. And it's just, that's the loop.
Yeah. And so reason number 3 is going to be what we're going to suggest you start to move into and start to use. But before we get there, we're going to go on to reason number 2, like of what are you training for? Thing number 2 that you're training for.
Which is what so many people answer that question with. What are you training for? And they name the race.
Yep.
Because that's what we got.
Boston, Chicago, New York.
Local 5K.
Right.
The Christmas fun run, turkey trot, like
Yep.
whatever the race is, they're actually training for. They name a date, they got a distance. That's their race that they're training for.
Yeah. So reason number 2 the next way to answer this question is I'm training for a race Or kind of the more nebulous answer to this question is to challenge myself. I'm training because I like the challenge.
Which I like to answer, but it can get a little too vague
It's
sometimes.
interesting, right? So I think the biggest thing that we see here is that people that often fall into answering that question with a race every single time is that they only train when they're following a plan, or they only train or follow a plan when there's a race on the calendar.
Right.
Right? So they feel like they always have to have a race on the calendar, because if there's not a race on the calendar, then I'm not going to be training and I'm going to fall off the wagon. So I always have to have something there, because that race on the calendar, that date that is checked off, in the future, that's what's holding me accountable.
Right. Like I've signed up for it. I paid money for this race, so I should train for it. And then when that race finishes, if you don't have another thing on the calendar, what's going to keep you going out the door? So
Yep.
people just start searching for the next race to put on the calendar.
Right. And this often leads to what I like to call the roller coaster of training. Okay. Because basically what happens is you train for a race, you get in, you improve your fitness for that race, and then you run that race, you get whatever result you get. And then there's some downtime often afterwards.
Mhm.
Right. And there's that inconsistency when there's not another race right there. So then people end up like their fitness goes up, and then they run that race, and then it starts to decline again. And they put another race on the calendar. So they start training, they go up again, and they go back down. So it's just this constant up and down roller coaster of training, which leads to a lack of long term progress, because you're always staying about the same. A lot of times when people fall into this roller coaster of training, they are just going up and then they back down and then they go back up to like basically where they were, but
Mhm.
never really above it. And so they wonder, like, why am I not getting faster? Like, I've been doing this for 3 years now. I don't understand. Shouldn't I be improving? Shouldn't this feel easier? Shouldn't I be getting faster? Shouldn't I be able to do more? And the answer is no, because you're not training for long term success. You're training for all of these short term races. And when you just train for a short term race, you're not thinking about that big picture. You're just kind of race hopping from race to race to race.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. That's what the roller coaster is a great analogy here is there's a lot of hills and valleys. You can climb giant things,
Loop
but
de loops.
loop to loops and whatnot. But eventually you get back to the station. You're at exactly where you started.
Yeah.
So if your training gets you from physical level A to B, but then you're inconsistent for a while and you slip all the way back to A, you're at the starting point.
Mhm.
Like you've done some running, you might be able to get to B a little bit faster next time, but you're still back at point A. You need to kind of continuously progress. You can't backslide all the way to A every time, where it's just going to be continuously moving from A to B forward backwards.
Right. And this is the trap that so many runners find themselves in. It's just, why am I not making progress?
Yeah.
It's because you're not training, again, with that long term vision in mind. Because a plan or a structure to your training is always a good idea, even when you're not training for a race. I have not been training for a race for basically the last 2 years, but I haven't missed a day of training. I think I've missed maybe less than a handful of days
Sure.
over the past few years. Like, because I have a structure to my training. I know exactly what my week looks like. And that is helpful to me for reason number three that we're going to get into. But having that plan, having that structure is always a good idea, especially because when you use a structure, when you use a plan, you can be building for that long term success, even when you're not training for a race.
Yeah, I mean, the structure also is related to habits, and habits
Mhm.
just help you continue that consistency because then you know what you're doing week over week.
Yeah.
And well, you might not be specifically training exactly to optimize for a half marathon or a 5K or whatever it is.
Mhm.
If you are consistently running and strength training, you're doing all the things week upon week upon week, all of that, all of those benefits, they're going to compound.
Even though I haven't been training for a race, I still have been training. And my goal has just been to get stronger. Like, I've been increasing my weight training, I've been increasing the weights and all that stuff. So I am training for something. It's just not a race
But you could hop into a 5K and be quite successful.
without a
Like,
problem.
it'd be really painful because it's
It's
5K, but
5K.
it'd only be painful because it's a 5K, not because you haven't been training for a 5K.
Right. I mean, I could complete a half marathon right now if
Yes,
I
you could.
wanted to as well. Like it likely wouldn't be a PR because I haven't been specifically training for a half marathon, but I could go out next weekend and run a half marathon if I wanted to.
Yeah, and from where you are right now, you could probably in 4 to 6 weeks get yourself pretty close to optimized for a distance between a mile and a half marathon.
Hmm.
And that's kind of the interesting part of your consistency training
Right.
is you could set yourself up over kind of a shorter window
Yeah.
to be into whatever event you want. There are these training plans that you find. It's like, oh, 12-week plans to get to all these things. Depending on where your starting point is, 12-week plan to get those things.
Mhm.
But from where you are right now, I don't think that you need that. I think you could do it probably in half the time
Yeah.
and get in a really good shape over a wide range of
Yeah,
distances.
because I've just been base building for a very long time. Like I've maintained a base in my mileage. I have a very strong mileage base,
Yeah.
and then I've been increasing my weight training, my strength on top of that base.
And you're not neglecting speed during
No,
base building. Like some people
because I
are like,
love speed.
oh, it's base building. So it's just long, slow foundational miles. No, no, no. Your foundation is built of all sorts of bricks.
Yeah.
Some of those bricks are rooted in strength, some are rooted in speed, some are
Mhm.
rooted in long, slower runs.
Yep.
But all of those involve your base. And when you can just keep stacking those bricks
Mhm.
day upon day and follow through with weeks, the growth that you can get over years is totally different from a roller coaster. The roller coaster is shot off the track and landed on a completely different place because you just keep climbing. It's like the least safe roller coaster. It's a Wonka is really what you
It's a
got.
Wonka Vader.
Where it goes forward and backwards and upwards and sideways, and then it bursts through the roof. The Wonka.
That's an interesting metaphor that did not expect. But yes, long-term success is built over years. It's not built over weeks and months. And if you are thinking in these short-term race cycles, that's the way you're thinking. You're thinking, okay, what am I doing for the next 12 weeks? What am I doing for the next 12 weeks? Instead of saying, I want to get stronger. I want to train for my first half marathon. I want to train for my first marathon, my first ultra, whatever your bigger goal is. I want to be able to pick up my kids when they're 15 years old and give them a piggyback ride around the house. Whatever that big goal is for you, that big goal does not have to be a race. That big goal can be whatever it is you want. But that success that you find is going to be built up through those weeks and months of training all added together because each training cycle needs a purpose and should have a purpose to help you continue to grow and improve as a runner. And when you understand the concept of training cycles, like outside of just a race, right? Like every training cycle is not just to train to complete a race. For example, right now I'm in a base building cycle. I've basically stacked a couple of base building cycles on each other, is essentially what I've been doing. Kevin, you are also in a base building cycle right now. It's
Yes.
for a future ultra marathon that you want to do. But right now you are in a strength building cycle because you realize that with your last attempt at your ultra marathon, there was some strength deficits that likely added or contributed to your inability to finish that race.
Yeah, I mean, definitely some contributions. So, I mean, I've really been focused a
Yeah.
lot on strength, and part of that cut back from the mileage that I would prefer to be doing. Now I'm kind of working this transition of I was strength building for 3 good months.
Mhm.
Can I keep that strength and start putting some mileage in there?
Yep.
Which I'm in that like that play mode now
Yep.
of if I start upping the mileage, am I going to lose the strength? Am I going to lose the benefits that I want? Because that's not the goal. Like
Right.
do I keep my mileage here? Like, how is this going to work? And so that's my current spot is transitioning from one plan to the other. But I had a clear plan,
Mhm.
even though the race on the schedule is really far in the distance. In January, I still had a goal of increasing my strength. Technically, it was for a race. I hadn't
Mhm.
signed up for the race. I had like several races in mind. I
Mhm.
still have not actually signed up for the race,
Right.
but I knew what the bigger goal was. I knew what the longer term goal was.
Mhm.
And to get to that, I was going to need to increase strength.
Right. So you have a basic timeline in your head. You
Yes.
knew that like you wanted to do an ultra towards the end of this year or at the beginning of next year. So then when you work backwards, you're like, okay, right now this is a strength building cycle. Next one, I'm going to start adding more mileage then while maintaining that strength,
Yep.
right? How can I maintain strength and then start adding mileage? Then can I maybe go back into another strength building cycle,
Yep.
right? There's different ways that we can do this because then what you can do is stack your training cycles for continuous growth and improvement. You can literally continue to improve as a runner into your fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh decades of life, as long as you're focusing on the right thing, as long as you're focused on long-term growth, long-term success, and as long as you use training cycles to your advantage so that you have one focus, like Kevin said, you're not neglecting anything at any point in time. Just because you're focusing on building strength or building mileage in this cycle, that doesn't mean that you're not doing speed work. You're doing speed work throughout. That's just not the focus. And the intensity is different based on what you're focusing on as
Yeah,
well.
I mean, it's all how it breaks down.
Yeah.
Like you only have so much effort you can put forth in your training.
Mhm.
There is the rest of your life going on also. So there's so much time and energy that you can put into running. So
Mhm.
it's like, all right, I'm going to focus more on lifting during this cycle. So I'm probably not going to be able to go and do these much longer long runs. I've got to kind of pull back from that a little bit because there's only so much that I can devote time wise and energy wise
Yeah.
into running. There was something else I wanted to say about the stacking the cycles before you got to your cleaning the house metaphor here. You're gonna have to start. It might come to me in a
All right,
second.
let's hope it comes back to you. So, back to our cleaning the house metaphor, I'd like to think of race training and specifically continuous race training, like where you're just kind of jumping from race training to race training, as cleaning the house when you know you have company coming over. Because there's a deadline, right? Like, and the girls always like they used to know. They've kind of gotten a good handle on mom's cleaning cycles
Yes.
throughout the years.
Yes.
But like it used to be, okay, we have to clean the house. And one of their first questions was, who's coming over?
Yes.
And it's like, well, actually, so and so is coming over. So yes, we have to all like chip in and clean this house because so and so is coming over today at 5 o'clock. Because when you know that someone is coming over, there's a deadline. You want the house to be ready. You want the company to have a good experience and to enjoy their time with you. And you
Put out the
think
fancy towels.
yeah, and you think that that clean house is going to add to their experience, or maybe you want them to think certain things about you. You want them to think that you're organized and that you're a clean person. Maybe you're trying to impress somebody. Maybe it's a new friend. Like
Just don't let them go through the garage.
because everything's thrown in there.
There's Christmas boxes still out there.
Yeah. So when you know that you have company coming over, that's kind of like, okay, well, we have to clean because we have this company coming over. I have to train because I have a race on the calendar. It's because there's that deadline, that looming deadline that you feel like you need to get ready for. And so, is that the sustainable way to keep a clean house? Is that the sustainable way for you to make long-term progress in your running? I would agree not.
Okay, well, so here's the thing: is it's better than option one. I think
Yes.
option one is you let things get so bad that you have to have this massive, like, explosive cleaning thing.
Mhm.
This time, especially, and this is, I think, why some people race hop, that they're racing every like month, every few weeks, because their fitness never falls that far.
Yeah.
Because they can keep going from one race to the next. They're like, well, if I just always have a thing that I'm training for next, I
Mhm.
will always stay on top of it. If you keep inviting company over every week,
Yeah.
every couple of weeks, the house is never going to get that bad.
Mhm.
You still have to clean it because company's coming this afternoon. So we're spending all morning cleaning it.
Mhm.
But at least it's not going to be that bad. Whereas like spring cleaning, an annual overhaul of the entire house top to bottom,
Yeah.
that's this like massive thing that you have to put into. And then you're exhausted from the cleaning. So you're going to have to take a little break. When you've got the race on the schedule, when you've got company coming, if you do it often enough, you create the illusion of consistency
Mm.
because you just keep putting something there. It's like, well, I am still going for this.
Yeah.
I am going to keep the house clean because they're coming back next week. But what's it look like on Tuesday? If company comes every Sunday,
Yeah.
what's the house look like on Thursday afternoon?
Well, and there's also that basket that things just get thrown in,
Mhm.
right? Like when you're doing like a quick cleaning job
Yep.
for company coming over, oftentimes I know that I've done this. I'm definitely guilty of this. We take the basket of laundry that's been sitting on the dining room table and just move it into our room
100%.
because we know that the company's not going in our room, right? So all of a sudden we're just moving clutter, right? We're just moving things around. We're not actually cleaning. And it's the same with like when we're training for a race, like we're focusing on this race now. Like maybe we'll train for this distance or we're trying to like optimize for this one specific thing. But is your overall fitness improving, right? Is the house actually getting cleaner or are you just moving things around? Are you just kind of adjusting or is there actual change being made?
Right. Like you just keep picking up on little things that have to
Mhm.
get done just for this cycle. Well, this person's going to be in our backyard because we're going to have them on the patio. So we got to get that area clean.
Mhm.
Okay. So now we can move things to the garage. Oh, but this person's going to be in the living room. Okay. So then we can hide it in our bedroom.
Mhm.
This is what happens when you're training for different race
Yeah.
distances is you're just like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to increase my mileage because I'm training for a half marathon. And then you follow that up with a 5K and you're like, all right, well, I don't need the mileage. So now I'll focus on some speed. And sure, you're getting some variety for this, but none of them are looking at like the big picture of how do I incorporate some longer distances and some speed and strength? And oh, wait, mobility is probably an important thing. Is your nutrition falling by the wayside? Like
Yeah.
you got to make sure that you're incorporating all of the different aspects of training at all times. And race hopping sometimes neglects things, which is often why race hopping, I think, besides the lack of improvement, sometimes it leads to injury that you don't see coming because you keep forgetting certain things because you're trying to just optimize for that distance
Mhm.
instead of looking at big picture. How am I going to improve year upon year?
Yeah. And so that takes us to number 3, okay, which is where we want all of you to get to. To us, this is the goal. Like it's not to train to just to lose weight or to get in shape or to get fit. It's not to train just because you have a race on the calendar. It's really reason number 3. So what are you training for? I'm training for life and I'm training for the joy of training. And I think that so many people think that running is just running, oh, it's just running. It's just the way that I stay in shape. It's just the way that I, am able to eat all the cookies
Uh-huh.
or, eat the things that I want to eat or drink the things I want to drink. And if you think of running that way, I think that it can get very boring. And I also think that motivation can diminish when you think of running that way. When you think of running as just running.
Well, anytime you put the word just into it,
Yeah.
it seems like it's not enough. It's
Mhm.
just this. Well, okay,
Mhm.
that can't be that exciting if it's just whatever the thing is.
Yeah. But like I'm the kind of person that likes to just kind of take a step back and try to see the bigger picture a lot of times. Like it's just kind of one of the things that I like to do. So I periodically ask myself, like, what's it all for? Especially when I don't feel like going for my run that day, especially when I don't feel like working out that day. I'm like, why am I even doing this?
Mhm.
So do you have an answer to that question? And I think some people, when they first start asking themselves that question, they answer that with, I'm trying to lose weight, or my doctor said I needed to get, healthier, or I've got this race on the
Yep.
calendar, right? Like they have those more superficial reasons. When I ask myself this question now, it's because I want to be a strong and healthy person. I'm training because of the life that I want to live. I want to be a strong, a healthy person. I want to live an active life. I want to become a stronger version of myself every single day. And so that's what I have to remind myself of. It's this piece of identity, it's who I am that motivates me to do the things that I want to do or that I need to do in order to maintain that identity because I see myself as a strong and healthy person. And I want to continue to be a strong and healthy person. So if I want to be a strong and healthy person, I have to do the things that strong and healthy people do, which means I have to work out consistently. I I choose to make running a part of that and weightlifting a part of that and yoga and some mobility. That's what I like to do to move my body so that I can keep my body strong and healthy so that I can be the kind of person that I want to be and live the type of life that I want to live.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's the training for life aspect I love. I really have leaned into training for joy
Yeah.
and fun.
Hmm.
And there are plenty of people, there could be people listening that would look at my training schedule and be like, are you sure that you're training for joy and fun?
That does not look fun.
But to me, it's incredibly fun.
Hmm.
Like I love what I go out and do. Like the other day, Sunday morning, I woke up in pitch black and put on like I strapped my vest on that has like the carrying the water in the back and a headlight onto my forehead. This looks ludicrous to other people. Like our own daughter thinks that I'm out of my mind. But to me, this was so much fun. I'm like, no, no, no. I told her, I'm like, I ran to your friend's house. She goes, she does not live close. I'm like, I know. And I ran like the long way to get to her house. And then I had to add an extra loop of our neighborhood when we got back because I ran for over 2 hours. But to me, that was so much fun. I listened to a couple of podcasts. I had some music going. There's a variety of things. But sometimes I shut all that off and I just run, and there's just thoughts that come in and out of my head. I find it just, it's interesting to just run and see what you can do. I find it fun is part of it, but I also just find it really interesting to just head out and run and see how far can I go? Like, what's the body going to feel like today? It all just sort of seems like an interesting science experiment, and that's kind of fun to me.
Yeah, I was just saying it's like an experiment.
I
Like, what can
mean,
I do today?
at my core, I'm an engineer. There was a reason why teachers for years told me I should go off and get an engineering degree.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were necessarily correct, but my brain does still lean that direction. I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily using it, but
Yeah. And I think that this is really where it gets interesting because it's both very deep and also very playful at the same time.
yes, this is
Right?
great.
Like this is the very interesting part of this like number 3 that we're thinking of because it really is both. Like it is this deeper reason of like I'm training because I want to be this strong and healthy person because it's a part of who I am and because I want to live an active lifestyle, but it's also this playful there's this playful aspect of it as well of like, you know, what can I do today? Like, what can I make this more fun? Can how can this bring more joy into my life? Because it both means everything and nothing at the same time. And this is a really weird mindful to go down, but stick with me here for a second, because when you decide that you are a runner and running is a part of who you are, running is a part of how you want to live your life. That's everything,
Yes.
right? Like this is a part of who I am. It's not the only part of who I am, right? Like I'm a lot of things. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a runner, I'm all sorts of different types of identities, right? A runner is a piece of my identity.
Which I think is very important. That it is a piece of
Yes,
your identity.
right. It is not everything about me. It is not who I am, but it is an important part about me because of what I take, the meaning that I take from it, right? The lessons that I've learned through running, or how I challenge myself, or how I've become stronger both physically and mentally, how I've become more resilient. That is a very important part of my identity that spills over into all of the other parts of who I am,
Mhm.
right? So in that sense, it kind of means everything because it's at my core a part of who I am. But at the same time, does your running actually matter? And I would say, no, it doesn't, right? Because, like, does your pace or your distance really matter? Is running a marathon going to change the world? Probably not. Like,
Yes.
you can,
No, sorry, no.
but I mean, it can. It's going to change your world,
Right.
right? Like if you set a goal and you decide I'm going to run this marathon, it can change your life for sure. Running can change your life, but the world as a whole, like one person completing a marathon, how much impact does that make on the world as a whole? You could argue a lot, especially if they, use their running as a fundraiser and they raise money to help other people, and that those charities can do a lot of good work in the world. So there's for sure a ripple effect.
Yes.
I'm not undermining the ripple effect, but at the same time, can we just be playful with it and just be like, it's really fun to just see what I'm capable of, right? Like it doesn't have to be this huge thing of with all of this deep meaning and putting all this pressure on yourself either.
No, and that's the thing is, like, it means a lot to you, and it's gonna mean a lot to, like, the people that are close to you. Not necessarily because it
Maybe.
even means a lot to them, but you mean a lot to
Yeah.
them, and it means a lot to you, and so they will let you know that it does mean a lot to them. Like, you were super supportive. I'm going off and running an ultra marathon.
Yeah.
You drive in the car and keeping along with me is fantastic. My running an ultra was not super meaningful for you other than that you were incredibly supportive of me. Like
Mhm.
you didn't create this goal for me of you should go do an ultra marathon, but
Right.
you were incredibly supportive. And so it mattered to you in that it mattered to me.
Right.
But to like Joe Schmo driving down, you know, thought taking the same bridge
Yeah.
and passing me on the road, like there were people that honked. Some people were like, "Hey, look, it's a bunch of weirdos running down the road trying to get to Key West," and they would honk. Other people probably it annoyed them that there was a race taking
Yep.
place down the side of the road. Other people might not have even noticed that there were people running down the
Mhm.
side of the road. So for some people, and literally this was the exact same thing happening simultaneously. Some people, it was everything. You've got people that are in the race that is like this is the race that they've been training for a year,
Yeah.
2 years, whatever it is. So in that moment, it meant everything. You have people that are supporting them. It means a lot to them. You have other people having the exact same experience that are annoyed by what is taking place, that are amused by what is taking place, or that are completely oblivious to what is taking place.
Yep.
So it means everything and nothing simultaneously,
Yeah.
which is phenomenal. There's
It's so interesting, right? Like if you really think about it.
yeah, there's the story from one of the podcasts that I love to listen to that he tells over and over of when he ran rim to rim. And he got from one side of the Green Canyon to the other, and there's a bus that you can take back. And
Mhm.
he gets on the bus and starts opening a wrapper to eat a snack. And the bus driver turns around and says, you can't eat on my bus. He goes, I just ran rim to rim. She goes, it's my bus. You're not allowed to eat on my bus.
Yeah.
To him, he just done this amazing thing to this bus driver. She's like, yeah, okay, great, but you're not eating on my
Yeah.
bus.
I don't care.
Like
Like
she
I literally don't care.
literally could not care
Yeah.
less. So yeah, she's like, no snacking on my bus.
Right. And like it's so interesting how, for that moment, that bus ride, their lives connected.
Yep,
But other than that, those two people were probably maybe never see each other again.
of course.
Right. And it's just like, even when I was crewing your ultra marathon, I was like thinking about the ridiculousness of it all. Right. Like, and this is, I mean, believe me, I love you. And of course, I'm here to support you no matter what. But we're hopping down A1A, like driving. I'm gonna drive 2 miles now so that I can give you
Yep.
another water bottle. And I'm like, this is kind of ridiculous.
This is
Like
the
this,
stupidest way to get to Key West. Why doesn't he just
right,
get in the car?
right? Like literally, we're trying to get from Key Largo to Key West and you're running it. Like when people are just driving, like it takes 4 hours, well, 2 hours to drive from Key Largo to Key West. But like, why in the world would anyone choose to just run this just to see if they can? Like back in the day of like the old west and stuff, like you actually had to like walk and run
Sure,
places, right? Because you didn't have the option to
because the
drive.
automobile
Like
didn't exist.
now, and it was like such a hot day, and there were all these cars driving. I was like feeling the exhaust. I'm like, what's going on right now? Like this is absolutely crazy, but at the same time, amazing at the same time.
Well, I mean, when you're out there running for hours upon hours,
Yeah.
and this is the thing, I love listening to podcasts when I run, but I also try and make sure that on a few runs during the week, I have nothing sound wise going on. So I'm just out there for the run and I can get the thoughts on that. When I was doing this ultra, there was extended hours of time where I had nothing in my ears
Yeah.
because my headphones were bothering me because I had it was trying to get the shade over my head and pushed my headphones too much into me. It was painful. So there was hours where I was literally answering the question continuously of what the heck am I doing?
Mhm.
And if the answer did not include some aspect of fun, I don't know if I could have kept going.
So how did you answer that question during that race?
In almost all of the ways that we've covered today.
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing this for my health. I'm doing this to challenge myself. I'm doing it because I paid a bunch of money to do this race. I'm
Which
doing
is also ridiculous.
yes,
Like, why do we pay all of this money to go out and run? It's the whole thing. If you really think about how ridiculous it is, it makes it so arbitrary
yes.
in a lot of ways. But it also is not arbitrary. And like, so when you guys hear me say this, I don't want you to feel discouraged, being like, oh, it's not even worth it. Like it is like it's both worth it and not worth it at the same time. And that makes it worth it.
But that's also what allows you to just laugh. Like when you have a bad
Yeah.
workout, sometimes people have bad workout and it
Yeah.
just crushes them.
Yeah.
That used to do that to me. Like I'd have a
Mhm.
bad workout, I couldn't hit the times that I was going for, and I'd be like in a bad mood for the rest of it. And at this point, I'm like, had a bad workout. Wonder why that was. Wonder, and it's much more of an experiment than a like, oh man, something went wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not a good runner. I'm super slow. I should give this whole thing up. It's a waste of all my time. Yeah, I don't spiral that direction. I'm
Yeah.
like, that was weird.
Mhm.
I didn't get to the finish line of this race. It's like, let's figure out what's going on. Let's change the training. You can accept that it's an experiment. Nothing has to be this super negative spiral that you're in. The whole thing, to me, I have a whole lot more fun with
Mhm.
running I'm having more fun with running now than I have since high school. High school was a blast running when I was getting into it and everything was new and exciting. That's kind of where I'm at right now is everything is so much fun. And if it's not fun continuously, like every day does not have to be like, oh, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Because some days it's not.
Sometimes it's not fun.
Some days are really hard work and some
Yeah.
days the weather does not cooperate, whether
Sometimes
it's
your
super
body just doesn't feel like it.
right. But for the most part, the overall over the week,
Yeah.
it's fun to me. I'm having a blast, and I think that that is super motivational to keep you doing it.
Mhm.
That's going to keep you doing it a lot more than I want to make sure that the number on the scale stays appropriate. Is I'm just having a whole lot of fun. Why wouldn't you continue to do the thing that you're having fun with?
Right. And this is also why it's good to have an idea of what you're training for. Like, yes, you can be training for life. You can be training because you're just like, wonder what I can do. But if you want to really see what you can accomplish,
Mhm.
really see what you can do, you need that plan. You need that structure. You need those training cycles to stack to continuously move you towards that long term success. So when you're in this part, in number three, it doesn't mean like, oh, I'm just going to go run whenever I want and do whatever I want. And like, I mean, you could if you wanted to, but don't expect to improve much if that's how you're approaching your training.
You're not going to answer the question, what am I capable of?
Yeah.
Like you're going to probably have some variety in your training, but you're not going to optimize that variety.
Mhm.
You may end up skipping things that you don't enjoy. Like I said that I train for fun, but sometimes there are workouts that I'm like in the moment it's not super fun,
Yeah.
but it's going to help me get the things that I have a whole lot more fun with.
Mhm.
So you got to combine these things. And without a plan, without some structure to it, I would continue to skip the parts that don't bring immediate joy and fun.
Yeah.
You're like, that doesn't seem like it's super fun to do. Why don't I just go run an 8 miler instead? Like
Yeah.
that would be my path. So I need some structure in place
Mhm.
because ultimately what's most fun is what am I possible? And searching, really trying to find that question to me, that's the most fun to me.
Yeah, I think that it's really fun to grow and to stretch yourself. Like I love growing. I love all aspects of personal growth and personal development. Like
Mhm.
I read personal development books. Yeah, I can't even tell you the last time I read a fiction book. And people are like, "Well, when's the last time you read fiction?" I was like, "I don't read fiction." But
No
I
idea.
love personal development. I love growing. I love challenging myself. I love trying to become like the next version of myself. I don't want to say a better human because I am a good human already as I am. It's just like, okay, what's next? It's like
Right.
looking ahead, but also being content with where you are. Like there's a paradox in all of this, right? Like the whole idea of it means everything and it means nothing at the same time. I can be happy and content right now and still want to improve. Like there's all of that mixed up together. And that's what makes all of this so beautiful. So going back to our clean house metaphor, like I clean the house because I like a clean house. I like the way that my house makes me feel when it's clean. I like the space that it provides to me, like both the physical space and the mental space. I don't like clutter. When I see clutter, like I'm looking over at my kitchen right now and there's stuff on the counter, like when I have physical clutter, it creates mental clutter in my mind. And yes, I can do some thought work and like, not let the clutter bother me and blah, 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 blah. But like, or I could just clean it up.
Or you put the
I, I,
things away.
I like having a clean house because I see myself going back to this identity piece. I see myself as an organized person. So I like to have an organized and clean home. And it's a reflection. Like if I have an organized and clean home and a clean space, to me, that's a reflection of the person that I want to be, of the person that I am. So if I think of myself as an organized and clean person, I need to do the things that organized and clean people do and keep my house in a way that I would define as organized and clean. So it's more of like who I want to be, who the type of life that I want to live, which is clutter free and clean, right? Like I don't like seeing all the dirt on the floors that the dog brings in. So I have to vacuum multiple times per week. Do I have to? No, of course not. Is it going to change the world? Nope. But like I like to see clean floors. I like to see my dog is clean and she's a white dog, so when she looks gray she needs a bath. Like there are just certain things that I like because it makes me feel good and it makes me like my headspace is better. I'm able to accomplish more things that way, and so in order for me to be that organized person, I need to do the things that organized people do.
I like to see myself as a good husband. And I think as part of that, I like to keep my wife happy. And
Yes.
she likes to have a clean house. And so when she starts cleaning things up, I notice that it's time to clean things
Mhm.
because I don't look at the counter and be like, oh man, we got to put all that stuff away.
And I've asked you that before.
Right.
I'm like, do you not ever like, does this not bother you? And you're like, no.
But sometimes I see you start like putting like you put something away. I'm like, oh, okay, you should put that thing away. And then you put the next and the next thing away. I'm like, okay, we're cleaning things now. Like, okay, what we're doing now is cleaning things. And I would like to be helpful. Like I see myself as trying to be helpful
Yep.
in the house. So
And
I've
that's
been
part of your love language also is like acts of service. Like
right.
I like to do things for my wife.
Yes.
And you know that cleaning, well, the act of cleaning doesn't make me happy, but the result of cleaning makes me happy.
Yeah.
Like having a clean house makes me happy.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I will do things to help keep you happy.
Because you define yourself as a good husband.
Yes.
And in your mind, a good husband does things to help keep his wife happy.
That's the steps that I have
Right.
taken, and that's how things kind of stay relatively clean.
And I think
Or in the garage.
or in the garage. Right. And I think you're an excellent husband. And I don't understand how it doesn't bother you, but you and I are two different people.
Two different
And
people.
I just appreciate that you help when you do realize that it's something that bothers
Oh,
me.
it's cleaning time.
Yes, you were wonderful that way. So kind of back to this whole running thing, what are you training for? Are you someone that is training for reasons number one or reason number two? And do you want to start to evolve into reason number three, starting to train for life and train for the joy of training, to realize that it means everything and nothing at the same time? And that is an amazing thing and an amazing place to be. And if you want help getting there, come find us. We love helping other runners become physically and mentally stronger. We love helping other runners learn how to train with more joy. That is one of our biggest goals with our podcast, with our coaching program, with everything that we do, is to try to bring more joy and bring more light into this world because we think it can use it.
Yeah. And running can bring that.
It
So
absolutely
then,
can.
yes, running means everything because it helps shine lights in the world,
Absolutely. So
especially when they're headlamps at 5 o'clock in the morning.
yes. So follow us on all the platforms at Real Life Runners. And if you're interested in getting some help with your running, we can teach you how to personalize a plan that's right for you inside the Real Life Runners Academy, our group coaching program. We also offer one-on-one coaching. I don't know if we have any spots available whenever you're listening to this podcast, but you can find all those coaching options over on the website, realliferunners.com. So head over there and check out those coaching programs because we would love to help you just learn how to train for life and learn how to bring more joy to your running. And when you're in number three, by the way, and training for life and training for joy, that also includes training for races and trying to improve yourself and trying to run longer or run faster or do all of those things, because that's really fun. And that can bring a lot of really, excitement and joy and personal growth and development into your life as well. So we're not saying you have to ignore all that stuff. We're saying that all these things can work together in a very beautiful way.
Excellent. Excellent wrap up.
All right, you guys. So thank you as always for joining us. This has been the Real Life Runners podcast, episode number 301. Now get out there and run your life.